Hey, folks, it's Lindsey Huddleston back in the building. SPS Mental Health Moment. With the benefit of technology, I'm able to travel all throughout the great state of Michigan. Now I've touched down on the west side with Mr. West Side himself, BG Brandoen Guyton. How you doing, man?
Man, Lance, I appreciate you letting me join you, man. You know, I follow a lot of what you do. Since me and you connected a couple years ago, and I really enjoy what you do, man. And I appreciate for what you're doing for the entire sports community as a whole, and not just the east side of the state, but for the west side of the state, and not just the coaches, but what you do for the players as well. We really appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be able to do it. And it seems like with crisis comes opportunity. I'm normally face-to-face, and I've been at the Red Hawk Classic, and the place was rocking. The walls was sweating, you know, and the thing was going on. But now technology lets us connect. So before I even get into that, man, tell me what the season was like for you and how that went and what things were like when you guys got the call about things shutting down.
So our season, I mean, we started off red hot. We started off 9-1. We finished 13-8. Our season had ended that Monday, the week before the shutdown. But, you know, due to some off the court personal issues, some sickness, our season took a turn. I think we lost 6 games in a row at one point.
Wow.
And that's, you know, I as a coach, I usually don't lose 6 in a row. And we lost in credit to the teams that, you know, had beat us, but we were losing to teams that we beat on a combined average by 30 points a night. At one point, I had 8 players, and one of them being the team manager suited up. And we started with 13.
Manager in, coach?
Had to suit the manager up, right? So, you know, two of my best players were sick. The other one of my leading scorers, you know, he got in some off the court things, and you know, he had to be suspended for a few weeks. So, you know, if you go look at the games, you'll say, well, they beat these same teams by between 20 and 50 points. And then they turn around and lose to them, right? So now we're throwing a whole bunch of kids on the court who's never played varsity basketball. We had a sophomore on the court. We pretty much and then threw the manager out there, right? And it's like 1 or 2 starters out there at once. So, like the craziest season I've ever been in. But you know, we learned a lot from it. We finished the season out on a 4-game win streak where we were really playing very good basketball. Then we played Muskegon in the district and just hit a flat tire. It was the wrong time. But I think, you know, you're supposed to play your best basketball in February. And I think with us having that 2.5-week gap of just consecutive losses in a row, it really took a toll on us. Even though we found our niche, it came back to haunt us district time.
Yeah, that's tough. And I know Muskegon coach Keith Guy, who we had on a while ago, he's going to bring his best fight. And he don't care if you down a man or 2 or not. He going to go for it, huh?
Yeah, you know, Keith is like one of my mentors and a big brother to me. So, no, he absolutely does not care. You know, he understood what we went through because me and him talked. You know, he was one of the ones, Keith Guy, Eric Taylor at Grand Rapids Christian, and Joe Souls at Forest Hills Northern. He was one of those guys who they would check on me every night, especially after every game. They say, you know, keep hanging in there. They knew I was frustrated because they knew exactly what I was going through. So, you know, but that's what it's about, though. You know, in the mix of all of us battling and going against each other in our season, along with Thomas Kelly. Those guys checked on me, like, throughout the week, that entire stretch. It was every
Yeah, shout out to TK as well. You know, this being the mental health moment, you've kind of brought up 2 things. I mean, of course, we're dealing with the challenge of the coronavirus and the pandemic and the quarantine, but you talk about the mental health aspect as you as a coach, being out on a great run early in the season, having those challenges, and then even going back to the success you had with the Red Hawk Classic and how it didn't even start like that. It just went through you having some challenges and not being able to get your team into tournaments and having to start your own. what does mental health mean to you as a coach, and how have you been able to deal with a lot of the issues and challenges you've had throughout your season?
Listen, I'm in the process right now. Before the pandemic, I'm doing the groundwork of a documentary titled "Deeper Than Basketball,"
Wow.
and it shows the lens behind of what coaches in the inner city go through. And I'm not discrediting anyone from the suburban communities, but what we go through in the inner city, right? When we're introduced to trauma at the age of 5, and here we are at the age of 17, we've never dealt with that barrier, or even as coaches, right? Where my life and upbringing was surrounded with nothing, with trauma and PTSD. And here I am as a 22-year-old varsity coach trying to pour into our kids, but still haven't figured out my own issues. So me growing as a coach and become, seeking, getting help from a therapist and let my guard down to not just my players, but the people in the community to say, hey, I've been down this road before. And I tell my kids, this is who I was, this was my upbringing, and this is how we can avoid these kind of things. And I think that we as coaches in the inner city, we go through so much, and especially our players, right? When you got players who is Tuesday night on the game night, and the last time he ate was Saturday night, how do I expect him to perform in school? How do I expect him to perform on the court? But his teachers expect him to be at school every day, right? His teammates, or even some people on my staff, expect him to perform. In reality, if you haven't ate in 2 days or 2.5 days, what makes you think you will be able to perform as a teacher or as a coach? So, we was dealing with real life crisis, and which turned me into bringing my documentary to life to say, this isn't just my kids that went through it. It was other kids before their time, before my time, who went through the same thing. And everyone is not as transparent when it comes to mental health. But I'm always willing to be vulnerable just because I know my story alone can reach someone. And if it's not everyone, it could be one individual.
And that's all that matters, man. That's so powerful what you shared. And just to briefly say, communities, particularly the African-American communities and minority communities, look at mental health as a sign of weakness, but your vulnerability and transparency is really a sign of strength. They're like, oh, that's Coach Guyton, Coach BG. Wow, I can respect that. And then you have a platform now because of all the hard work you've done and the people you touch, not only with the classic, but as a coach, whatnot. And that's amazing, man. So I want to wish you the best of luck with that. That's heavy. Talk about what it's been like in the Grand Rapids community with things being shut down, and how have you been able to communicate with your players about limiting their movement, staying in the house, and because I think in every community that's a challenge sometimes. How's that been for you?
Well, it's going to be interesting now with the weather about to break. I know some of my guys said they've been going for jogs. They might go to a park in the morning, get some shots up. But it make us all appreciate the life that we do have. Even someone for myself who probably took what I love most for granted. And I think some of my players take it for granted because we always think we are guaranteed another day to live or to play this sport. But in reality, that is not the case. So, I communicate with them on Zoom. We got group text messaging. I check in with these guys. I'm in a process of, I got a couple of my guys into schools and committed, but also stand on them about, participating in our distant learning program so they can finish up and move on to the next chapter of their life. So the interesting part is now what happens after May 28th. We're about to get some 70 to 80 degree weather. Kids still got to stay safe. And I know those families are doing that, but 16, 17 years old, Lens, and being in the house and it's 75, 80 degrees out, it's going to be tough. But, we just encourage them to, just make sure that they're staying safe, whatever. If you want to go for a jog, that's fine, but definitely practice that social distancing. So I think for the most part, my kids have been doing a phenomenal job at it.
That's great. Shout out to the Grand Rapids Union community. And I think one word that kind of depicts everything you said that we downplay is discipline. You know, you want to be successful in your sport, you want to be successful in the world, you got to have some discipline. So even with the weather being the way it is, and this COVID-19 is something that we can't see. It's an enemy that we can't touch and see or see coming. It's about us kind of believing in what the experts are saying. So on a more lighter note, man, one of the topics I've been talking about with a lot of the people I've been talking to, yourself included, I know you're an MJ fan, at least from your shoe game. I know you big on that. So tell me what The Last Dance has meant to you watching that. And if I'm wrong on your MJ love, my bad. I know you feel LeBron too. So I know there's two sides to that. Tell me what your house is on The Last Dance.
I was a diehard Kobe fan first. I couldn't stand LeBron. So probably like 2010. And then I just really became a fan of him. For one, what he does off the court. You have no choice but to root for him. But then, you know, I'm 8 years old when Jordan retired in '98. But I also, you know, I was 12 and 13 when he came back, which is, we all know that wasn't the same Jordan. But so I would watch old games, but when you actually know what happened, what went on behind the scenes, and me and my fiance have been watching it. And
congratulations again, by the way.
Thank you. Jordan is the GOAT, man. It is. It's not even close.
Wow.
Jordan was that good. If he doesn't get overwhelmed and with his father's death and the Chicago Bulls organization, their front office wasn't a mess, I mean, he would have won 9 titles. And he definitely would have won in '99 with that short season and those guys got the rest. He would have won, I mean, eight minimum, but 9 in a row. This guy, like when we were watching, and he makes things up in his head to be competitive, to challenge him.
I know. They said he never even said
man. That was crazy. So, I mean, like, we really enjoyed watching. I'm like, Jordan was a flat-out killer. And reason why they never bring Indy up, you don't hear a lot about his flaws, because during the documentary, you hear him getting criticized. So he got criticized, but he won.
Yeah.
When you wins, nobody say anything. See, LeBron, they don't care. Listen, I'm not sure if any team could have beat the Warriors with Kevin Durant. But at the end of it, that's what happens. That's the ticket that comes with it, or the price that comes with the ticket when you lose, right?
Right.
That's what happens. You just leave that door open. That's probably why it didn't help when LeBron lost the finals in 2011 in Dallas, and maybe 2014 when he played good but wasn't great. So I thought those 2 titles he should have had, and the ones he lost to Golden State with Kyrie and Kevin Love out, and like Tristan Thompson and Matthew Dellavedova is your next best player. And then when you playing against the Kevin Durant Warriors, I mean, I think those 3 finals and the one in '07, he can get him a mark for. But someone needs to give him a pass for that.
Right. Why do you think that the discussion between LeBron and Michael Jordan can become so divisive? It's almost like a political discussion. It's almost like the left end of the spectrum, the right end, Democrat, Republican. It's so extreme. Why do you think people can be so passionate about which side they are on with that?
Man, I don't know. It got to the point where it's crazy, because granted, if anything happens to either one of them guys, we would never have this debate again. As you can see, we slowly, respectfully move Kobe out of it. But why can't we just appreciate it? It's like we watching the Jordan documentary, and here goes. Now, you can discuss it amongst your team, but we on Twitter. LeBron can never do this. Jordan can never do this. Man, it's just nonstop. It's just everything. And I think that LeBron, talent-wise, really, he poses that biggest threat of being that GOAT. Now, when it's all said and done, LeBron's going to have every all-time record. And I think he's going to max out at a 4th title. I was hoping it'd be this year.
Yeah, he was too. He was hoping it was going to be this year too, the way they
right. And people say, well, what about Kobe? But they got to remember, whatever we think about Kobe, Kobe was during those 3 championships, at least 2 out of the 3, he was the second best player on that team. So nobody's going to give you that when you're playing with the 2000 MVP, right? Which is Shaq. So, I mean, LeBron is on Mount Rushmore. It's him, Jordan, and we can debate who the other 2 are, but some don't even have LeBron in that category. And for you to not have him in that category, he went to the finals 8 straight years in a row.
Hey, he was king of the finals, no doubt.
King of the finals, man.
Yeah, I think the tough thing about it, man, is one thing is there's no consistent criteria. I think whenever you had these discussions, it has to be some caveat as far as, okay, well, what are we measuring by? Because had a conversation with someone, I forget who, and the conversation was about what about rings? And that person actually removed rings from the conversation. And when you do that, it changes things. So I think that's going to always be a big debate. But I think it's great because it makes people appreciate things. The funny thing I found out, man, with a lot of players with Jordan, some of these young guys didn't even know Jordan wasn't even a one and done. They made the assumption that because of his greatness, he was one and done. But as a coach, you know, he had to go through it. JV, getting cut from varsity. I mean, all those things that make a player important. What does it mean when you hear that and these other players don't really understand that when you're trying to coach them and get them to come along?
Well, you can't skip the process. I think players at my level, but then also these top recruits in the country, everybody wants to skip the process and get right there to the GOAT. Everyone wants to skip it and be the top guy. In reality, it just don't happen like that. Reason why I want to say, and I hate to say this, but I talk about this in my group chat, because our number 1 recruits, they're so used to being the top dog, you know, the best of the best. And I feel like that's why our underdogs are coming up these days. I feel like, I mean, who was Giannis Antetokounmpo? Nobody could tell us who he was 7-8 years ago.
Right.
Steph Curry before the blow up at Davidson, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, the guys that no one paid attention to. That's, you know, I think the best in our league today, outside of Durant and you know, LeBron. And that's what makes Jordan's story unique. You know, he wasn't this global icon in high school. You know, he had to go through his adversity. And what Jordan averaged, 11 to 12 points in college?
Yeah, it was not
right. Dean didn't really let him play. He was
part of the system.
Right. They took well, he was drafted. What was he, 3rd?
He was 3rd after Hakeem Olajuwon, Sam Bowie.
Right, and we can't argue. I mean, I think if everybody went back to the '84 draft, everybody still would pick Hakeem Olajuwon. I'm saying just right then and there. The Sam Bowie, you know, it's a hit or miss. It's just what happens with today in drafting. Mm-hmm. You draft off potential or do you draft off production, right?
Right.
And, you know, they liked Sam and it kind of backfired. But so Jordan wasn't just always that favorite. And then when he was younger, I think it was year 3 when he dominated the Celtics. Mm-hmm. And then I think by year 4, when I was watching the documentary, I didn't even know in year 4 he was already the best player in the league.
Yeah.
I did not know that, right? So that's similar to how LeBron was. By the time LeBron went to year 4, he was already pushing that the best player in the league in 2007. So, you know, I just think that you got to work for it. I think Jordan actually has a great story because I'm sure that's every coach's favorite story to say, hey, Michael Jordan got cut. But it's just a great testament to how hard he's, worked.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
Shift the hats a little bit from your head coaching role at Union to what you've done with the Classic. You know, this year you've had 7 top-ranked AP teams. You've had 5 Mr. Basketball candidates, including Mr. Basketball, and also the Gatorade Player of the Year. When you talk about these elite athletes and these elite players, what does it mean to have those guys kind of be part of what you've created and then eventually go on to do some great things? What does it mean to kind of be up close and personal with a lot of those guys and give them a platform?
You know, it means absolutely everything. I remember when I talked to Jesse Davis, and he told me before Imani had committed to coming to Lincoln that he had some pretty good seniors. And I remember when Imani came, when he first came, I'm not sure if everyone in West Michigan knew who he was, like how he is now. And
There was
I
a
didn't
buzz
go
about him. I remember people saying, I've
buzz.
been hearing
But,
about
you know,
all
we
the
hype all these guys up, or the West Michigan, and then, you know, they think these guys supposed to be Superman. And, you know, that classic that you attended, I mean, it was awesome. And then even this past year, so I was fortunate enough to have, it starts with the coaches, right? To be able to trust me, to put them in that position. So I'm always thankful for the coaches. I'm thankful for the fans, and the platform is for the players. And humbly speaking, we can arguably say that outside of the playoffs or the state championship, that the Red Hawk Showcase right now could be the best one-day event in the state, because the atmosphere is second to none. You're getting high-level competition. And so we really take pride in how we match teams up. We want the best of the best. And what I like personally is I like getting to meet the players, and not just the top-tier players, but, well, let me see how the bench guy conduct himself, right? I done been going, you know, to the hospitality room, and I'm talking to some guys, and, you know, I look to see how they carry themselves. So, you know, I've done had a blast doing it, Lance, and fortunate enough, year 7 going into year 7, you know, we probably will have the top 5 seniors in Mr. Basketball candidates in the state, which is usually hard to find. And I'm just thankful that with so many other great events going on in the state, that coaches and players are still excited to play in our event.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting back down there. So in the interest of time, this has been a great, great piece, and I appreciate you being available to share. What final words do you give to your to the Union community, to the Grand Rapids community as a whole, just not just West Michigan, but just the basketball or the world for that matter, about where we are and how we can stay focused to get through this pandemic and be positive on the other side of things?
You know, the biggest thing for this is, you know, I say for couples, right? You know, because I see these articles about marriage, be creative, right? Let's not work each other nerves, but get more creative. Pick each other brains. Start making plans and goals for when this is over. If I'm a youngster, right, you better go outside and go get you a ball and work on your ball handling. Guys who got backyards or who's right across the street from the park, you can get up in the morning, go get you some shots up, go take a jog. But absolutely don't take anything for granted. And that's where most people go. Don't take nothing for granted. And number one, the most important thing is family. Sports don't matter. Fashion doesn't matter. Entertainment doesn't matter. Family is the most important. So while we're, you know, locked in together, this is a great time to, and although it can be frustrating and, you know, can have a lot of many triggers, especially to your mental health, just appreciate what we have in front of us, right? And then when life comes back to normal, we need to appreciate life a little bit more. Because even me, I took life for granted. I thought I was appreciative, but I even took life for granted.
Yeah, well, that's really helpful, man. I think a lot of people are going to have a different expectation when things come back around. Well, always, man, I appreciate you. I want to keep supporting you, what you have going on. And when we get a little bit of normalcy back, I look forward to getting out west, man, supporting you, what's going on. So we got Mr. BG, Brandoen Guyton of Grand Rapids Union and the Red Hawk Classic. Any final words?
No, I'll be waiting for you to come visit us and break one of our games down this year.
Okay, I look forward to, man. Thanks so much for your support, all right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, take care.